Imagine you're standing on a dock in Boston Harbor. It's a cold December night in the year 1773. Around you, men disguised as Mohawk warriors climb aboard 3 British ships. In the next 3 hours, they will throw 342 chests of tea into the dark water and light a fuse that will change the world. This is the story of how 13 small colonies defeated the most powerful empire on Earth and became the United States of America. Let's go back a little. By the mid-1700s, Great Britain ruled 13 colonies along the Atlantic coast of North America. Over 2 million people lived here. Farmers growing tobacco in Virginia, and merchants in Boston trading goods across the ocean. In Philadelphia, printers like a young man named Benjamin Franklin were building businesses, newspapers, and new ideas. For decades, Britain mostly left the colonists alone. They elected their own assemblies, ran their own towns, grew rich, and proudly called themselves Englishmen. But there was a problem. Britain had just won a long, expensive war against France, and the empire was drowning in debt. So King George III and his parliament looked across the ocean at the prosperous colonies and asked a simple question: why shouldn't they help pay the bill? In 1765, Parliament passed the Stamp Act, a tax on almost every piece of paper in the colonies. Newspapers, legal documents, even playing cards. Colonists were furious, not just about the money, but the principle. They had no voice in Parliament, no taxation without representation. Riots broke out, and tax collectors were chased out of town. Britain backed down, but soon tried again, with new taxes on glass, paint, and tea. In 1770, British soldiers fired into an angry crowd, killing 5 colonists. The newspapers called it the Boston Massacre. 3 years later came that cold December night, the Boston Tea Party. Britain's response was brutal. They closed Boston Harbor completely and stripped Massachusetts of its self-government. Shops closed, jobs vanished. The colonists gave these laws a name: the Intolerable Acts. The other colonies rallied around Massachusetts. In 1774, their leaders met in Philadelphia, the First Continental Congress. Among them stood a tall, quiet planter from Virginia named George Washington. They agreed to boycott British goods and prepare for the worst. On April 18, 1775, riders like Paul Revere galloped through the night. Their warning: the British are coming. At dawn on Lexington Green, 70 colonial militiamen stood facing 700 British regulars. Nobody knows who pulled the trigger first, but that single gunshot became known as the shot heard round the world. The American Revolution had begun. All day, farmers fired at the British from behind stone walls and trees. By nightfall, the British were retreating to Boston. The message was clear: the colonists would fight. In the summer of 1776, Congress made a decision that could get every member hanged for treason: complete independence. A 33-year-old lawyer named Thomas Jefferson wrote the announcement, one of the most famous documents in human history. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, with rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. On July 4, 1776, Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. Church bells rang across Philadelphia. A new nation had declared its birth. But declaring independence and winning it were 2 very different things. On paper, the war was hopeless. Britain had the world's greatest navy, a professional army, and endless money. Washington's Continental Army was a ragtag force of farmers and shopkeepers, often without shoes, food, or gunpowder. New York fell. Philadelphia fell. In the terrible winter at Valley Forge, 2,000 soldiers died of cold and disease. Yet Washington understood something the British didn't. He didn't need to win the war, he just needed to not lose it. Then came the turning point. In October 1777, at Saratoga, the Americans captured an entire British army. The victory stunned the world and convinced Britain's oldest enemy that this rebellion could actually win. France made its move. French ships, French soldiers, and French gold began flowing across the ocean to America. What started as a colonial rebellion had become a world war. The end came in 1781 at a small Virginia port called Yorktown, where American and French cannons pounded the town for 3 weeks. 8,000 British soldiers were trapped. Washington's army in front of them, the French fleet blocking the sea behind. On October 19th, the British surrendered. Legend says their band played a song called "The World Turned Upside Down." 2 years later, in the Treaty of Paris, Great Britain formally recognized the United States as a free and independent nation. But winning the war was only half the battle. In 1787, delegates met again in Philadelphia and created the Constitution of the United States, a government of 3 balanced branches, drawing its power not from a king, but from the people themselves. George Washington, the man who could have made himself a king, became the first president, then voluntarily gave up power. 13 quarreling colonies had become one nation, and the idea that all people are created equal would inspire the world for centuries. If you enjoyed this journey through history, subscribe. Every week, we bring the past back to life. See you next time.